So
Yeah.
I would say it's probably still too early to call the party on Union.
Yeah.
At least they met the XG.
Do you know, it's interesting you bring up Frankfurt because we kind of saw this last season with them when they
Yeah.
would pick up results against big teams, but then they would struggle against lesser sides. And the best example of that is obviously how well they did in Europa League, where they continuously came up against teams that were technically bigger than them, bigger club, whatever you want to call it, who underestimated them, and they would sit deep, hit them in the attack, hit them in the counter attack,
Mm.
and they had a lot of success with that. And it's really interesting that we've now got two clubs in the division who are doing so well playing this tactic because I think I was talking to you about this maybe off air, maybe I mentioned on the pod. It's hard to tell what I say on and off the podcast these days, but I was saying it's really interesting if what become like the kind of legacy of this Urs Fischer Union Berlin side is that
Yeah.
if he has a similar impact to how like Jurgen Klopp or Ralph Rangnick had with Gegenpressing in the sense that a lot of clubs look at what
Mm.
they're doing and they say, right, that's how we, leapfrog a few clubs above us. And we start seeing a lot more clubs in the division start playing this kind of more defensive counter-attacking football, which I don't think is a bad thing, to be perfectly honest with you, because I think we probably need to see a lot more clubs kind of be a bit more humble on the pitch. But yeah, that'll be really interesting to see if more teams kind of take inspiration from Frankfurt and Union Berlin going forward.
Yeah, and I think, if the founding father of this is, in my opinion, Frankfurt. Union Berlin have taken it definitely to another level, but Frankfurt started doing it under Adi Hütter, right?
Mm,
Oliver Glasner, who comes from a similar background as Adi Hütter does as well, did it really successfully at Wolfsburg and was fired for it and went to Frankfurt and won the Europa League. Wolfsburg have not been as successful since. I think that's a coaching departure that hurt them more than anyone else.
mm,
But Adi Hütter is definitely one of the coaches that probably kind of started this trend. But the guy who was probably first successful with this and sort of put built the foundation in Frankfurt, and a lot of people keep forgetting this. I mean, there's the sporting director Freddy Bobic, who's now at Hertha and is slowly but surely turning that ship around. It seems. But Niko Kovac, and that's probably why Wolfsburg ultimately went for Niko Kovac, right? Is because he was
mm.
kind of the founding father of this brutalist football style that won Frankfurt the DFB Pokal. His style, not surprising, then was completely unsuccessful at Bayern Munich, because why would Bayern Munich play like that? It makes no sense. But it's interesting that Frankfurt sort of then managed to find two other managers that sort of were able to build on the style and refined it, right? And Urs Fischer at Union Berlin seems to be very successful with it as well. And I think there is a little bit. I mean, there is still a lot of counter pressing, gegenpressing. Like that style still exists in the way those teams play, but at the same time, it is definitely a lot less. You try to sit a little bit deeper. You try to be a bit more aggressive. A lot of the times these teams don't play with four at the back, right?
Mm.
There is a lot more reliance actually on a quick transition game and the floating midfielders. Frankfurt, in fact, play with two, Kamada and Götze, right? Then
Mm.
there is it's a lot more about trying to get speed through midfield rather than trying to play with this high defensive line. And it's an interesting development, and I wonder if that will have an impact on how football is going to be played in Germany overall.